Hey guys, tonight we are traveling back to a place known for its legends, for its warriors, for the sheer, unyielding toughness of its people. We're going to ancient Sparta, but we're not here to talk about the glorious battles you see in movies, with chiseled heroes fighting in slow motion. No, we're going to a much darker, much quieter, and honestly, a far more terrifying battleground, a Spartan childhood. This isn't a story of heroism. It's a story of survival, where your greatest enemy isn't a foreign army, but the very system you're born into. Frankly, you probably wouldn't last today. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is for you. I love seeing how far these stories travel. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The first thing you experience is not a loving embrace. It's a shock of cold air. You are born, then the world is immediately assessing you. Your first cry isn't met with coos of reassurance, but with a critical ear. Is it strong? Is it robust? Or is it a weak, mewling sound that betrays some unseen flaw? You are slick and new. Your eyes sealed against a world that has already begun to judge you. The hands that hold you are not your mother's. Not yet. They are the hands of a midwife, firm and practiced, turning you over, examining every inch of your tiny, fragile body. This is not a celebration. It is an inspection. Your life, in these first few moments, hangs on a thread of perceived perfection. Your father stands nearby, his face unreadable. He feels no rush of paternal joy, not in the way we might understand it. His emotion is closer to anxiety, a knot of apprehension. He is not just looking at his child. He is looking at a potential citizen, a future hoplite, a serviceable brick in the great wall of the Spartan state. Your value is not intrinsic. It is not based on the simple, miraculous fact of your existence. Your value is utilitarian. Can you serve Sparta? If the answer is even a hesitant no, your journey may end before it has truly begun. Imagine the room. It's not adorned with gifts or filled with joyful relatives. It's likely a simple, austere space. Stone floors, perhaps a flickering oil lamp casting long, dancing shadows on the walls, here smells of olive oil, iron, and something else a faint, metallic scent of tension. Your mother is nearby, exhausted from labor, but her ordeal is not over. She watches, her breath held. She carried you for 9 months, but you do not yet belong to her. You belong to the state, and the state is a notoriously unsentimental parent. This initial in-home check is just the preliminary round, the formality. The real test is yet to come. Once you are cleaned, you are not swaddled in soft wool for a long, peaceful sleep. You are wrapped in a simple cloth, prepared for a journey. Your father will soon lift you, his grip secure but devoid of tenderness, and carry you from the home. You are on your way to meet the Krypteia, the council of elders. These are men who have lived the harsh life you are just beginning, men whose faces are maps of old scars and hard-won survival. They are the gatekeepers. The ancient writer Plutarch, who gives us many of these details, paints a grim picture. But it's worth noting that historians still debate the precise reality of this moment. Was this infant inspection a formalized, bureaucratic process for every single newborn? Or was it a more general understanding, a threat that loomed over every birth? Did they truly examine every baby, or only those whose fathers brought them forward with some concern? The truth is, the Spartans left behind no user manuals for their society. They left legends, and they left the accounts of others, like Plutarch and Xenophon, who were often writing with their own agendas. So, as you are carried through the quiet, dusty streets of Sparta, you exist in that hazy space between historical fact and cultural myth. But for you, in this moment, the threat feels very, very real. The judgment awaiting you is not a myth. It is your immediate future. The journey is not long, but it feels infinite. Your world is a rhythmic bobbing, A swatch of blue sky framed by the rough wool of the blanket and the strong line of your father's jaw. He doesn't speak to you, doesn't hum a tune. His focus is entirely forward. His footsteps are the only sound that matters. A steady, metronomic beat on the hard-packed earth. This is Sparta. There are no grand, marble-paved boulevards here, not like in Athens. The streets are functional, dusty, and laid out with military precision. You pass simple, severe-looking houses, their doors closed, their windows like empty eyes. There is a sense of order, of quiet discipline, that permeates the very air. You might hear the distant clang of a blacksmith's hammer, the shout of a drill instructor, but it's all part of a symphony of purpose. There is no idle chatter, no wasted energy. Your destination is a place called the West J. It's not a grand courthouse or a temple. The term itself is humble, meaning something like a meeting place, the lounge, or a portica. It's a public space, likely a covered colonnade, where the elders of the Geras gather to talk, to oversee the city's affairs, and, in your case, to pass judgment. The public nature of this is crucial. Your fate is not a private family matter to be hidden behind closed doors. It is a civic decision, performed in the open air. Your very existence is a matter of state resources and military potential. This isn't a checkup. This is an audit. Finally, the rhythmic walking stops. Your father has arrived. You can feel a change in the air, a drop in temperature as you move from direct sunlight into the shade of the West J. You hear the low murmur of voices, deep and gravelly, the voices of men who have seen decades of this life. These are the elders. To be a member of the Geras IA, a man had to be over 60 years old. Think about that for a moment. In a world where life was oft unshort and brutal, these men were the ultimate survivors. They had endured the Agoge, the brutal training you have yet to face. They had fought in countless battles, seen friends fall, and weathered every hardship Sparta could throw at them. Their bodies are living records of that life, a network of scars, a limp from an old spear wound, hands gnarled by a lifetime of gripping a shield. They are not theorists. They are graduates, with honors, from the school of pain you are about to enter. Your father stands before them, a posture of deference, but not of fear. This is the way. It is the law, the eudaimonia, the good order that defines their entire world. One of the elders, his face a mask of wrinkles and stern authority, gestures wordlessly. It's time. Slowly, tearfully, your father unwraps you. The cool air hits your skin again, and you might squirm or let out a cry. That cry is a piece of evidence. The elder's eyes, sharp and practiced, fall upon you. This is the moment Plutarch described, a scene that has haunted our image of Sparta for millennia. They are not looking for a cute baby. They are looking for defects. They examine the shape of your head, the straightness of your spine, the alignment of your limbs. They look for any sign of sickness, any physical imperfection, any hint that you might not grow into a strong, resilient soldier, or, if you are a girl, a mother capable of bearing them. There's a strange, cold intimacy to this moment. These old men, strangers, are scrutinizing your tiny body with an intensity your own parents have not yet shown. They might gently prod a leg, turn you over to see your back. Every part of you is data, and here lies a small, fascinating detail that is often overlooked. They were looking for a specific kind of physique, not just health, but a body that was well proportioned and sturdy. The Spartans believed that a well-made body was a sign of a well-made spirit, one that could endure hardship without complaint. Historians, of course, are locked in a perennial debate about the frequency and precise methodology of this. Was every single baby subjected to this, or only those from certain classes? Was it a formal, daily ritual, or did fathers simply have to present their newborns to the elders whenever and wherever they could be found? The image we have from Plutarch is stark and dramatic, but the day-to-day reality might have been more integrated into the fabric of Spartan life. Perhaps it was as common and unquestioned as a modern birth certificate. For you, however, suspended in this moment of silent, intense scrutiny, the academic debate means nothing. All that matters are the eyes of the old men and the verdict that is forming in their minds. You lie there, exposed and helpless, awaiting the most important decision of your life, a decision you will have no say in whatsoever. The verdict is delivered not with a gavel or a proclamation, but with a simple, almost imperceptible nod. It is a gesture of dismissal. The elder who examined you looks away, his expression unchanged, and turns his attention back to some other civic matter. For him, the process is over. For you, the sentence has been passed. Your father understands immediately. There is no appeal, no plea for mercy, no second opinion. The judgment of the juris IA is absolute. You have been deemed unfit. You might have a birthmark they found unusual, a slightly misshapen foot, or perhaps you were simply smaller than average, your cry weaker than they deemed acceptable. The reasons are their own, unspoken and unchallengeable. The state has decided you are not a worthy investment. You will consume resources, food, time, energy that could be better spent on a stronger, more promising child. From a purely utilitarian perspective, a philosophy that underpins all of Spartan life, you are the net loss. Your father wraps you back in the rough blanket. His movements are stiff, mechanical. He turns and walks away from the lesche, his footsteps now carrying a different weight. He is no longer walking toward a judgment. He is walking to execute a sentence. His path now leads away from the heart of the city, toward the jagged, looming peaks of Mount Agoge. This mountain range is a constant presence in the Spartan landscape, a wall of gray rock in deep shadows that dominates the western horizon. It is beautiful, but in a severe, intimidating way. For the Spartans, Agoge is more than just a mountain. It is a symbol. It is a place of wildness, of nature untamed, a stark contrast to the rigid order of their city-state. It is also a place of endings. The specific spot is known as the Krypteia, which literally means the deposits or the place of rejection. It's not the very peak of the mountain, but a chasm, a deep, shadowy gorge, a place where things and people are thrown away as your father carries you along the path. The city sounds fade behind you, replaced by the whisper of the wind through sparse, tough shrubs and the crunch of his sandals on loose gravel. The air grows cooler, thinner. He does not rush. This is not an act of frantic, emotional desperation. It is a duty, performed with the same stoic resignation he would bring to any other order from the state. What is going through his mind? We can never know. Is there a flicker of sorrow, a pang of loss, or has his entire life, his own upbringing in the Agoge, conditioned him to suppress such feelings as weaknesses? Historians have argued for centuries about the emotional landscape of a Spartan man. Were they truly the unfeeling automatons of legend, or were they masters of concealing an inner life that was just as complex as ours? Perhaps the answer lies somewhere in between. He might feel a deep, painful conflict, but knows that showing it would bring shame upon himself and his family. The highest virtue is service to Sparta, and today, this is the service required of him. You arrive at the edge of the gorge. It is a raw, desolate place. The wind whistles through the rocks, a lonely, mournful sound. Below is a deep darkness, a place from which there is no return. Your father holds you for a final moment. He looks not at you, but out at the expansive view of the Laconian plain, at the city he is sworn to protect, the city that has demanded this of him. Then he simply places you down. He doesn't throw you. The act is one of abandonment, not of active violence. He sets you down on a ledge of cold rock at the mouth of the chasm and turns his back. He walks away without looking back. That is the crucial part. He must walk away. Your fate is now left to the elements, to the wild animals, to the will of the gods or the simple, brutal reality of exposure. As you lie there, the last human sound you hear is the fading crunch of your father's footsteps. Then, there is only the wind. This practice of infant exposure was not unique to Sparta. It happened in Athens and other parts of the ancient world too, but nowhere was it as systemated, as cold blood ethically integrated into the state's ideology. A small, strange detail often debated is whether any of these children were rescued. Some stories and myths suggest that shepherds, or even helots, the Spartan state slaves, might find these infants and raise them as their own. It's a romantic, hopeful idea, but the grim reality is that for most, this was the end. Your first and only truly independent act is to lie on a cold mountain, your cries swallowed by an indifferent wind. Let's rewind a moment. We need to go back to the house, to the room where you were born. Your father has just returned, his hands now empty. He enters the home, and the silence within it is heavy, thick with what is unsaid. He meets the gaze of your mother. She is sitting up now, perhaps her body aching from childbirth, her mind grappling with a void that has just been created. She does not weep. She does not scream or rage or collapse in grief. Her face is a mask of stoic composure, as unreadable as her husband's. To an outsider, this scene would look monstrous, inhuman, but within the logic of Spartan society, your mother's reaction is the only one permissible. It is her duty. A Spartan woman's primary role was to be a womb of the state, to produce strong sons who would become warriors and strong daughters who would, in turn, produce more. Her worth was tied directly to the quality of the children she bore. If her child was deemed worthy by the elders, she was a success. Her status in the community would rise. She would be honored. If her child was rejected, as you were, it was a mark of failure. Not just your failure to be a perfect specimen, but hers. This is the crushing pressure she lives under. Her glory is reflected. It comes from the achievements of her sons. The famous stories of Spartan mothers are all about this. The mother who, upon hearing her son died in battle, says, "That is why I bore him." The mother who hands her son his shield and says, "Come back with it, or on it," meaning return victorious or dead, but never in retreat. These are the ideals she has been raised with since she was a girl. Her education, unlike that of an Athenian woman who was confined to the home, was public and rigorous. She exercised. She competed in athletics. She was taught to read and write. But all of this was to make her a better, stronger vessel for the state. So, when your father returns alone, she knows, and she accepts. Any outward display of grief would be a profound social disgrace. It would suggest that her personal feelings, her maternal attachment, mattered more than the judgment of the jurors, i.e. and the well-being of the state. It would be selfish. That would be, in the Spartan vocabulary, a form of weakness. And weakness was the ultimate sin. This doesn't mean she feels nothing. This is one of the great misunderstandings about the Spartans. It's not that they were incapable of emotion, but that they were masters of its suppression. The question that historians still grapple with is the depth of this conditioning. Did they genuinely feel less? Or did they just perform stoicism so perfectly that it became a second nature? Inside her, your mother might be a storm of pain and loss, but on the outside, she must be granite. Her silence is her uniform. Her composure is her shield. And here's a bizarre, almost unbelievable detail about Spartan society that underscores this point. The only Spartans who were allowed to have their names inscribed on a tombstone were men who died in battle and women who died in childbirth. Think about that. The state officially equated the act of dying in labor with the act of dying for Sparta in war. It was the ultimate, and only, glorious death for a woman. It solidified her purpose. Her body was a battleground for the future of the state. Her life was a sacrifice, just as a soldier's was. This tells you everything you need to know about how they viewed a woman's role. So, in that quiet, austere room, there is no comfort offered. Your father does not hold your mother. They do not mourn together. They simply absorb this event into the fabric of their lives and carry on. The daily routines must continue. There are other children to raise, duties to perform, and a reputation to uphold. To show weakness would be to invite scorn from their neighbors. The entire community was a network of surveillance, constantly reinforcing its own brutal norms. Your brief existence is now an event, an anecdote to be forgotten, a gap in the family line that will be quickly filled by the next pregnancy. Your mother will now focus all her energy on ensuring her next child is stronger, more perfect, one who will pass the inspection at the Lesche. Her own survival and status depend on it. She might even be shamed by other women whose sons were accepted. Her honor, for now, is diminished. You were not just a child to her. You were a chance at glory, and that chance is now a cold stone on a lonely mountain. But let's imagine a different outcome. Let's say the elder at the last Che, after his careful, prodding inspection, gives a different nod, a nod of approval. You are deemed worthy. Your limbs are straight. Your cry is strong. You are a well-made infant. You are a good investment for the state. Your father takes you back home, and this time, the atmosphere is entirely different. There is no open celebration. That would be un-Spartan, but there is a palpable sense of relief, of honor satisfied. You have passed the first and most definitive test of your life. You have been granted the right to exist. Now, your life at home begins, but it's not a life of coddling and comfort. Your welcome to the world includes a rather peculiar trial, a story passed down to us by Plutarch that has fascinated and baffled historians for ages. You are not given your first bath in warm, soothing water. Instead, you are plunged into a basin of unmixed wine. Picture the scene. A terracotta bowl is filled with dark, potent wine, its sharp, fermented scent filling the small room. The midwife, or perhaps your mother, takes you and, without ceremony, bathes you in the alcohol. The belief behind this, according to the legend, was that it acted as a sort of primitive stress test. It was thought that weak or epileptic infants would convulse and wither when exposed to the pure wine, while a healthy baby would emerge stronger, their body tempered by the experience. This is one of those historical details that feel so bizarre it has to be true, yet it's also one that many scholars approach with a heavy dose of skepticism. Is it a literal account, or is it a metaphor? Was this a common practice, or an exaggerated tale told by outsiders to highlight just how strange and severe the Spartans were? The debate rages on. Some historians argue it could have been a real practice, perhaps believing the wine had antiseptic properties, or that the shock to the system was a valid way to test an infant's constitution. Others suggest it's more likely a symbolic story, representing hell from the very first moment. A Spartan's life was one of trial and harshness, a baptism into a culture of endurance. Assuming the story is true, you survive the wine bath. You don't convulse. You emerge, sputtering, unslick with red wine. Having passed another strange, state-sanctioned hurdle, you are then swaddled, but not in the way other Greek babies are. In Athens, infants were wrapped up tightly in swaddling bands, their limbs immobilized to ensure they grew straight. The Spartans, however, had a different philosophy. They believed that constricting a baby's movement was unnatural and made them weak. So, you are left free, your arms and legs able to kick and move. The idea was to encourage physical development and a sense of freedom from the very beginning. You are not treated as a fragile doll, but as a small animal that needs to learn to use its body. Your upbringing is austere. There are no colorful toys, no lullabies designed to be sweet and gentle. Your cradle, if you have one, is simple and hard. You are deliberately taught to not be a picky eater, to be content with whatever food is available. You are conditioned not to be afraid of the dark, and to not cry or throw tantrums. Any sign of fussiness is met not with comfort, but with stern discipline or simple neglect. The goal is to forge a child who is self-reliant, fearless, and emotionally tough from infancy. Your mother is your first and most important teacher in this regard. She speaks to you in the famous laconic style, brief, direct, and meaningful. She doesn't use baby talk. She instills in you the core values of Spartan society: obedience, endurance, and a fierce, unwavering loyalty to the state. She is raising you not just to be her child, but to be a future citizen, and the state's needs always come first. There's a coldness to this, a deliberate distance. She is not preparing you for a happy life, but for a useful one. This period, from birth to the age of 7, is the only time you will know a conventional family life. It's a preparatory phase. You are in the care of your parents, but you are already being shaped by the unyielding expectations of the world outside your door. You are being groomed for the next, far more brutal stage of your life. Every lesson in stoicism, every moment of enforced hardship, is a small stone being laid on the path that leads directly to the barracks of the Agoge. You are home, but you are already in training. Your home is not a sanctuary of peace. It's more like a pre-boot camp. The lessons of austerity and resilience are not just taught. They are the very fabric of your domestic life. The house itself is a reflection of Spartan values. Forget the ornate decorations and comfortable furnishings you might find in a wealthy Athenian home. A Spartan house is functional to the point of being barren. The floors are likely packed earth, the walls unadorned plaster, and the furniture is simple, wooden, and built to last, not to comfort. There is no clutter, no sentimentality in the objects around you. Everything has a purpose, or it isn't there. You grow from an infant into a toddler, then into a small child, while an Athenian boy might be playing with terracotta animals and learning nursery rhymes. Your playtime is different. It's rougher, more competitive. You wrestle with your brothers or the neighbor's kids. Games are about strength, agility, and cunning. There's a constant, low-level competition in everything you do. Who can run faster? Who can throw a rock farther? Who can endure a scraped knee without crying? Crying is for the weak. Complaining is for the unworthy. You learn this lesson quickly, not through lectures, but through the sharp sting of shame when you fail to live up to the standard. Your father is a distant, almost mythic figure. He is a member of the SYS Cydia, the common mess hall where all Spartan male citizens eat their meals. He doesn't dine with the family. This is a fundamental pillar of Spartan society. From adulthood, his primary loyalty and social life are with his military unit, not his wife and children. He leaves before you wake and often returns after you sleep. Your interactions with him are minimal and formal. He is not a playmate or a confidant. He is an authority figure, the embodiment of the warrior ideal you are expected to emulate. His approval is a rare and valuable currency, earned not through affection, but through demonstrations of toughness and obedience. Your mother, therefore, is the dominant presence in your young life. But she is not a nurturing figure in our modern sense. She is your drill sergeant. She ensures you are never overfed, that you learn to withstand the cold, that you speak only when necessary and always with respect. The stories she tells you are not whimsical fairy tales. They are the sagas of Spartan heroes, of Leonidas at Thermopylae, of men who chose death over dishonor. These are your bedtime stories, tales of glorious sacrifice and unwavering devotion to the state. A fascinating and debated aspect of this early life is the role of Spartan nurses. Wealthier families often employed helot women as nurses for their children. These nurses were famous throughout the Greek world for their particular methods of child rearing. They were known for being the opposite of indulgent. They practiced the same Spartan principles of not swaddling babies, feeding them plain food, and instilling a kind of rugged independence from a very young age. Plutarch even mentions that the famous Athenian statesman Alcibiades was raised by a Spartan nurse, and people attributed his incredible resilience and endurance to this early influence. So, even if you were raised by a nurse, the training would be the same. The goal was universal, to stamp out weakness before it could take root. You are being conditioned to see the world in black and white, strong or weak, brave or cowardly, useful or useless. There is no room for gray areas. There is no space for individuality or self-expression if it deviates from the collective ideal. You are learning to subordinate your own needs, your own fears, your own desires to the needs of the group. As you approach your 7th birthday, a shadow begins to loom. It has always been there, in the stories, in the way your father lives his life, in the training of your older brothers. It is the Agoge, the state-run education system that you are about to enter. It is not spoken of as a school, but as the next, inevitable stage of your existence. It's the forge where Spartan boys are hammered into men. The final days of your life at home are tinged with a sense of impending change. The relative, and I use that word very loosely, freedom of your childhood is about to end. You are about to be handed over, body and soul, To the state, your mother knows this, your father knows this, and in your own childish way, you are beginning to understand it too. The pre-boot camp is closing. The real thing is about to begin. Before you are taken from your home, there is another crucial part of your world that you need to understand. A presence as constant and as fundamental as the ground beneath your feet. They are the helots. You see them every day. They are the ones working the fields that stretch out beyond the city. Their backs bent under the hot Laconian sun. They are the servants in your home, the nurses who may have raised you, the artisans and laborers who do all the work that a Spartan citizen would consider beneath him. They are, in simple terms, the state-owned slaves, and they outnumber the Spartan citizens by a staggering margin, perhaps as much as 7 or 10 to 1. This demographic imbalance is the single most important fact for understanding Sparta. It is the engine that doctors everything, their military obsession, their brutal education system, their paranoid secrecy. The entire Spartan way of life is built upon the foundation of a massive, subjugated population. The helots were not slaves bought from foreign lands. They were fellow Greeks, the original inhabitants of Laconia and neighboring Messenia, who had been conquered by the Spartans centuries ago. They were bound to the land, the keel arrows, the plot of farmland assigned to each Spartan citizen. They were not owned by individuals, but by the state, and were essentially leased out along with the land. As a young boy, you don't understand the complex history of conquest and oppression. You only see the reality. You see that they are different. They wear different clothes. They do the manual labor, and they speak with an accent of deference. You are taught from your earliest days to see them as inherently inferior. They are the other, the tool by which your glorious life is made possible. The food you eat, it is grown by a helot. The simple tunic you wear, woven by a helot. The spear your father carries, forged by a helot artisan. Your entire existence as a member of the elite warrior class is subsidized by their forced labor. This creates a deep, pervasive, and unspoken tension that hangs in the air. The Spartans live in a state of perpetual, low-grade fear. They are an occupying army in their own country. They know that the helots hate them. They know that the only thing keeping this vast, resentful population in check is relentless, systematic terror. This is a truth you absorb through osmosis. You see the contempt in your father's eyes when he gives an order to a helot servant. You hear the stories of helot uprisings, of the constant need for vigilance. One of the most bizarre and cruel customs designed to enforce this hierarchy involves, of all things, alcohol. The Spartans, famously moderate in their own drinking, would sometimes force helots to become grotesquely drunk in front of the boys of the Agoge. They would make them drink in mixed wine until they were stumbling, slurring their words, and acting foolishly. Then, they would be dragged into the common mess halls. Look, the instructors would say, this is what happens when a man loses control. This is what it is to be un-Spartan. This is what it is to be a helot. It was a lesson in negative reinforcement, using human beings as props to teach a moral lesson about self-control. It was designed to instill in you a profound sense of disgust and superiority. Historians still debate the full extent of the helots' daily lives. Were they treated with uniform brutality, or did their treatment vary from one Spartan master to another? Did they have any semblance of family life or culture, or was it entirely suppressed? The records are thin because the Spartans didn't write their own history, and their enemies, like the Athenians, were happy to paint the bleakest possible picture. What we know for sure is that the relationship was one of pure exploitation, maintained by fear. As you stand on the cusp of entering the Agoge, your understanding of the helots is a critical piece of your mental furniture. You are being trained not just to fight foreign enemies, but to be a permanent warden of this internal, captive nation. The discipline, the cruelty, the endurance you are about to learn, it's all designed with a dual purpose. Yes, it's to create a soldier who can stand in the phalanx against the Persians or the Athenians. But just as importantly, it's to create a man so hard, so disciplined, and so merciless that he can spend his entire life sleeping on top of a volcano of human resentment and never, ever show fear, the helots or the silent, watchful audience for the entire brutal drama of your childhood. The day arrives. It is the morning of your 7th birthday, or perhaps just the start of the year in which you turn 7. There is no party, no cake, no gifts. The day is marked by a single solemn your departure. The shadow that has been looming over your childhood has now fallen directly upon you. Today, you enter the Agoge. The word itself, in Greek, means the rearing, or the leading, but its reality is far harsher than those gentle translations suggest. It is the state-run education and training system that every male Spartan citizen, with the exception of the heirs to the 2 royal thrones, must pass through. It is not optional. It is your destiny. Your mother prepares you. She doesn't fuss over you. Her movements are efficient, her expression resolute. She might check that your tunic is straight, but her eyes are not sad. They are filled with a kind of fierce pride. This is the moment she has been preparing you for since your birth. She is handing her son over to the state. And, in her world, this is a moment of honor. She may say a few last words to you, not words of comfort, but of exhortation. Be brave. Do not shame us. Obey. The famous phrase, "Come back with your shield," or on it, is the epitome of the maternal advice you would receive. A man arrives at your door. He is not your father. He is one of the officials in charge of the Agoge, a paid onomos, or boyherder. He is an older man, chosen for his impeccable reputation and his stern demeanor. He is now, for all intents and purposes, your new guardian. You are to leave with him. You are allowed one last look at your home, at the familiar, austere room, at your mother's stoic face, and then you turn and walk away. You do not look back. You are not alone. As you walk through the streets, you see other boys your age, all being led by similar officials. You are being gathered into a herd. Small boys, some trying to look brave, some with a flicker of fear in their eyes that they are desperately trying to hide. You are all heading to the same place, the barracks. This will be your new home until you are a man. The Agoge is not a single school building. It is an entire system, a way of life. It's a series of barracks, training grounds, and common areas where you will live, eat, and sleep with your age group. You are immediately stripped of your name in a way. You are now part of a peg, an agela, or herd. Your individual identity is the first thing they begin to break down. You are no longer the son of your father. You are a member of your herd, and your loyalty is to them and to the state, not to your family. The system is designed to be a crucible. Its express purpose is to systematically weed out the weak and forge the rest into the most disciplined, obedient, and physically formidable soldiers in the ancient world. It is based on a few core principles: hardship, competition, and total surveillance. From this day forward, you will never truly be alone. You will be watched by the older boys, by the officials, and by your peers. Every action is subject to scrutiny and judgment. A strange and debated aspect of the Agoge is its origin. The Spartans themselves attributed its creation to their mythical lawgiver, Lycurgus, centuries earlier, but modern historians are more skeptical. Was the Agoge a master plan, designed in one brilliant stroke by a single founder? Or was it an evolving system, a series of customs and laws that grew more and more extreme over time, especially in response to the ever-present threat of a helot revolt? This is a classic great man versus social forces debate. It's likely that the system wasn't born overnight, but was perfected over generations, each new rule adding another layer of severity, another turn of the screw, until it became the terrifyingly efficient machine for producing warriors that we know of today. As you arrive at the barracks, the reality of your new life begins to sink in. The buildings are stark and functional. The air smells of sweat, dust, and wood smoke. You see older boys, their bodies already lean and hard, moving with a purpose and discipline that is intimidating. They look at you, the new arrivals, with an air of detached superiority. They have been through what you are about to face, and they have survived. Now it is your turn. The door to your family home has closed forever. The gate to the Agoge has just opened. You have been fed into the machine. You cross the threshold into the barracks, and the world shrinks. Your universe is now defined by the stone walls, the hard-packed earth of the training grounds, and the faces of the other boys in your herd. The first casualty of this new life is your connection to your family. You have left your mother, and in doing so, you have left behind the very concept of a gentle, comforting presence. There are no more mothers here. From now on, your primary human connections will be horizontal, with your peers, and vertical, with the older boys and your instructors. Your loyalty is systematically rewired. If you were to see your mother in the street, you would not run to her. A formal nod of acknowledgement would be the most emotion you would be permitted to show. To display any sign of lingering attachment to your family would be seen as a profound weakness, an indication that you have not yet transferred your allegiance to your new, more important family, the state. Your herd becomes your world. You will do everything together. You will wake together in the pre-dawn chill. You will train together, eat your meager meals together, and sleep together on rough, self-made beds. This constant proximity is designed to foster an intense, unbreakable bond. These boys are not just your classmates. They are the men who will one day stand next to you in the phalanx. You must learn to trust them implicitly, to anticipate their movements, to function not as a group of individuals, but as a single organism. The life of every man in the shield wall depends on the man standing next to him. The Agoge is where that absolute, life or death interdependence is born. But this bond is not forged through gentle team-building exercises. It is forged in the fire of constant, brutal competition. You are pitted against each other in everything. Who can endure the most pain? Who is the fastest runner? Who is the most cunning in mock battles? The instructors, and especially the older boys, actively encourage rivalries and fights. If two boys have a disagreement, they are expected to settle it with their fists. Stepping in to break up a fight is forbidden. This is not seen as bullying. It's seen as a necessary part of the sorting process. A way for the boys to establish a natural hierarchy based on strength and aggression. The weak are identified, shamed, and pushed to the margins. The strong learn to lead. This introduces you to your new authority figures. The adult officials like the paid onomos are the ultimate arbiters. But your daily life is governed by the Irenes. An Iren is a young man, typically around 20 years old, who has successfully completed his own Agoge training. He is now put in charge of a herd of younger boys. He is your prefect, your squad leader, your judge, jury, and often your tormentor. He has absolute authority. He can punish you for any infraction, real or imagined. His job is to be hard on you, to test your limits, to push you past what you thought you could endure. He is the one who will inspect your work, drill you until you drop, and administer the frequent floggings that are a core part of the curriculum. A fascinating and less known detail is the symbolic theft of the boys. Some scholars believe that the act of taking the boys from their homes was seen as a kind of ritualized abduction by the state. The state steals the boy from his family, severing that primary bond and asserting its own ownership. This act reinforces the idea that you are no longer a private individual. You are state property. Your body, your will, your future, it all belongs to Sparta now. This is a profound psychological shift. You are being systematically unmade as a son, so that you can be remade as a soldier. The academic debate here often centers on the emotional and psychological impact of this separation. Traditional views hold that the Spartans were so conditioned that this was a seamless, unemotional transition, but more modern interpretations, informed by psychology, question this. Can a 7-year-old boy truly be severed from his mother without profound emotional consequences? It's more likely that the Agoge was not just a physical trial, but a massive exercise in emotional suppression. You learned to bury your fear, your loneliness, your longing for comfort, so deep within you that it became invisible, even to yourself. The price of becoming a Spartan warrior was, in many ways, the sacrifice of your own inner child. You left him standing at the door of your mother's house, and you were never allowed to go back for him. The first thing you lose is your comfort. The second thing you lose is your shoes. On your first day in the barracks, you are stripped of any personal belongings you might have. Your world is reduced to a single, coarse, woolen tunic, a chiton. This one garment is all you will be given. It must serve you through the biting cold of winter and the searing heat of summer. You have no hat to shield you from the sun, no extra layer to warm you in the frost. The principle is simple. Your body must learn to adapt. It must become its own coat, its own shelter. Complaining about the cold is not just forbidden, it is unthinkable. And your feet are bare. You will not wear sandals, not now, not ever. During your training, you will run on hard-packed earth, on sharp gravel, on sun-baked rock, and in the icy mud of winter, all on your naked feet. The goal is to harden them, to make the soles as tough as leather. A Spartan warrior cannot be disabled by a broken sandal strap or a blister. He must be able to move swiftly and surely over any terrain. Your feet become your first lesson in the art of endurance. The initial pain is intense. Your soles are soft, and every step is a new lesson in agony. Cuts, bruises, and thorns are your constant companions. But over time, slowly, miraculously, your body responds. The skin thickens, calluses form, and the nerves steaden. You learn to move with a new awareness, the new connection to the ground beneath you. Next, your bed at night. You are not given a mattress or a warm blanket. You are sent out to the banks of the Krypteia River, the main waterway that flows past Sparta. Your task is to gather reeds with your own hands. You are not allowed to use a knife or any tool. You must break them off at the base with your bare hands. A painful and difficult task. These reeds are then piled up to form your mattress. It is a lumpy, cold, and uncomfortable bed. In the winter, you might be allowed to add thistledown to the pile for a bit of insulation, but even this is seen as a luxury, a concession to weakness. This isn't just about making you tough. There's a deeper lesson here. Self-reliance. The state provides the absolute minimum. Anything else, you must provide for yourself through your own effort and ingenuity. It teaches you that comfort is not a right, but a luxury you must earn, or, more accurately, learn to live without entirely. The historical sources, primarily Xenophon and Plutarch, who both wrote admiringly about the Spartan system, emphasized this point repeatedly. They saw this austerity as the foundation of Spartan virtue. Xenophon, an Athenian general who was a great admirer of Sparta, wrote that the purpose of this was to make the boys more inventive and supplying their own needs and more warlike. The lack of comforts was a direct line to military effectiveness. Now for a truly bizarre, small detail that highlights the extremity of the system. Your hair. You are required to keep your hair long. In most other Greek city-states, long hair on a man was a sign of aristocratic luxury. But in Sparta, it was the mark of a warrior. The reasoning, according to legend, was that long hair makes the handsome more handsome and the ugly more terrifying. It was part of the uniform, a psychological weapon, but maintaining it was another task. You were given no comb, no oils. You were expected to care for it somehow, to keep it from becoming a tangled, matted mess, likely by combing it with your fingers and washing it in the cold river. A well-kept head of hair amidst such deprivation was a sign of discipline. Historians often debate the hygienic realities of the Agoge. Imagine a barracks full of boys, living in close quarters, with minimal clothing, no beds, and rudimentary washing facilities. The conditions must have been incredibly unsanitary by modern standards. Disease would have been a constant threat. This leads to a rather grim conclusion. The Agoge was just a filter for the weak of spirit, but also for the weak of immune system. Only the most constitutionally robust could have survived such an environment. It's a part of the survival of the fittest program that is often overlooked. The system didn't just build strength, it called those who lacked it from birth, and continued to call those who lacked it throughout their youth. So there you are, a small boy, barefoot, clad in a single tunic, sleeping on a pile of sharp reeds. You are perpetually cold, perpetually uncomfortable. and perpetually watched. This is not a temporary hardship. This is your new normal. Your body is being systematically broken down and rebuilt into something harder, something more resilient, something that the state can use. Every painful step on a sharp stone is a lesson. Every shiver in the night is a reminder of your purpose. You are being stripped of everything, so that you can be remade from nothing. Your body is being hardened by the cold and the rough ground. Now, they begin to work on your stomach. The next stage of your conditioning is hunger. A gnawing, constant, and deliberate hunger. The food provided to you in the Agoge is intentionally, systematically, inadequate. You are fed just enough to keep you from starving, but never enough to make you feel full. The goal is to keep you perpetually lean, weary, and ravenous. You gather for meals with your herd in the mess hall. The atmosphere is not one of convivial dining. It is tense and disciplined. The food is served, and it is famously plain. The most notorious Spartan dish is Immerse, or black broth. Its recipe has been lost to time, and perhaps that's for the best. It was said to be a concoction of boiled pork, salt, vinegar, and blood. That's it. A story goes that a man from Sparta, a Greek colony famous for its luxury, once tasted the broth and said, "Now I understand why the Spartans do not fear death." It was, by all accounts, disgusting, but you eat it. You eat it without complaint, because it is what is provided. The portions are tiny, a small piece of tough bread, a ladle of the infamous broth, maybe a handful of figs or olives if you are lucky. The IRNS, the older boys in charge, watch you eat. You must eat quickly, efficiently, and silently. No talking, no savoring. Food is fuel, nothing more. To show any sign of pleasure or displeasure in your food is a punishable offense. This policy of systematic starvation has several purposes. The most obvious is to make you tough. A soldier in the field cannot be picky. He must be able to function on minimal rations, to march for days on an empty stomach. The Agoge is a direct simulation of campaign conditions. You are being trained to see hunger not as an emergency, but as a normal state of being. It also, according to the Spartans, made boys grow taller. Xenophon claimed that by not weighing them down with food, their bodies were free to stretch and grow. This is, of course, questionable from a modern nutritional standpoint, but it was their belief that there is a far more important and more insidious reason for keeping you hungry. It is designed to encourage you to steal. The state wants you to become a proficient, cunning, and silent thief. Hunger is the motivation, the goad that pushes you out into the night to supplement your meager diet. This is not a secret or a shameful side effect of the system. It is an explicit part of the curriculum. You are taught that stealing is a valuable military skill. A good soldier knows how to forage, to live off the land, to raid enemy supplies. The Agoge is your training ground for these essential arts of survival. So, at night, when the instructors are seemingly absent, you and the other boys slip out of the barracks. You become shadows, moving through the fields and farmsteads on the outskirts of the city. Your targets are the gardens and storehouses of the helots, or even of other Spartan citizens. You might try to snatch a loaf of bread from a baker, a clutch of vegetables from a garden, or, the ultimate prize, a young pig from a pen. The small, quirky detail of this is the specific praise given for cleverness. Stealing a live animal, like a fox or a young pig, without it making a sound was considered a masterstroke of skill. It required not just stealth, but an understanding of the animal's behavior. The famous story of the Spartan boy who stole a live fox and hid it under his tunic is the perfect illustration of the system's values. As he was being questioned by an instructor, the fox, hidden from view, began to claw and bite at his stomach. The boy stood there, unflinching, his face a mask of innocence, while the animal literally dissembled him. He eventually dropped dead, never having revealed his theft or shown any sign of pain. To the Spartans, this was the height of virtue. He was a hero. He failed in his theft by getting caught, but he succeeded spectacularly in his endurance. The academic debate here revolves around the morality of this system. Was it truly teaching valuable military skills, or was it simply institutionalizing criminal behavior? Critics, both ancient and modern, have pointed out that a system that glorifies theft and deceit within its own society is fundamentally corrupt. It blurs the line between right and wrong, teaching that the only real crime is getting caught. But for the Spartans, this was not a moral issue. It was a practical one. The world was a dangerous place. War was a constant reality. A boy who could not learn to be cunning and ruthless would become a dead soldier. The hunger gnawing at your belly is not just a physical sensation. It is a tool. It is shaping your mind, teaching you to be resourceful, to take risks, and to see the world not as a place of rules and fairness, but as a landscape of opportunities for the clever and the bold. The hunger is your teacher, and the night is your classroom. But this classroom has one very simple, very brutal rule. Do not get caught. The act of stealing is not a crime. The act of getting caught is. And the punishment for getting caught is swift, certain, and severe. It is designed to be far worse than the hunger you were trying to escape. If an instructor, or any adult citizen, catches you in the act of stealing, you will be flogged mercilessly. You will be whipped until your back is raw. The lesson is not thou shalt not steal. The lesson is thou shalt not be a clumsy, incompetent thief. The pain of the lash is meant to sear this distinction into your brain. A successful theft is a mark of honor, a sign of your developing Krypteia, your thieving skill. A failed theft is a mark of shame, a sign of your foolishness and lack of discipline. This creates a high-stakes game of survival within the Agoge. You are constantly calculating risks. Is that bunch of grapes worth a potential beating? Can you get over that wall without making a sound? This is not just about acquiring food. It is about honing your senses. You learn to move with absolute silence. You learn to be aware of your surroundings, to notice the trip of a twig, the shadow of a guard. You become, in essence, a nocturnal predator. Your hearing becomes sharper, your sight more attuned to the darkness. You are learning fieldcraft in the most practical way imaginable. The entire community is complicit in this training. Any adult Spartan citizen has the right, and indeed the duty, to punish any boy he finds misbehaving. This decentralized discipline. You are not just afraid of your official instructors. You are afraid of every single adult you see. The entire city-state becomes a panopticon, a prison where every citizen is a guard. This fosters a constant state of alertness and obedience to authority. Any authority. Imagine the scene. You and a couple of other boys from your herd, your stomachs aching with hunger, are creeping through the darkness towards a helot farmstead. The moon is hidden by clouds. The only sounds are the crickets and the pounding of your own heart. Your target is a storage shed where you think cheese and dried meat are kept. Every shadow looks like a man. Every gust of wind sounds like a footstep. The tension is unbearable. This is a life or death mission, not for your life, but for your standing within the group and for the skin on your back. A small and rather grim detail of this practice is how it further dehumanized the helots. Most of the theft was directed at them. Their property was seen as a legitimate training ground. This reinforced the idea that helots were not fully human, that their possessions, and by extension their lives, had less value. Stealing from a fellow Spartan was risky, but stealing from a helot was almost encouraged. It was a way of making war by night, a constant, low-level campaign of harassment and expropriation that kept the helot population intimidated and off balance. The historical debate around this is fascinating. Did this system actually produce better soldiers, or did it produce bullies and thugs? The Athenian writer and philosopher Plato, in his work The Laws, offers a subtle critique. While he admired Spartan discipline, he suggested that a system based entirely on pain and fear creates men who are brave only because they fear disgrace more than they fear the enemy. He questioned whether this was true courage, or just a highly developed form of obedience. Was a Spartan warrior brave in the face of the enemy because of a noble heart, or because the thought of the punishment he'd receive for cowardice was even more terrifying? It's a question that cuts to the very heart of the Spartan character. You learn very quickly that success in this endeavor depends on teamwork. A lone thief is easily caught, but a small team, working in concert, is much more effective. One boy acts as a lookout, another creates a diversion, while a third slips in to grab the prize. You are learning small unit tactics without ever hearing the term. You are learning to communicate non-verbally, with a gesture, a glance. You are learning to trust your comrades, to depend on their silence and their courage. The bonds forged in these illicit nighttime raids are powerful. You have shared fear, you have shared risk, and if you are successful, you have shared the secret. Triumphant feast that follows, huddled together in some hidden corner of the barracks, savoring a stolen piece of cheese that tastes like victory itself. While your body is being sculpted by hardship and your character is being shaped by hunger and theft. What about your mind? What about your formal education? If you were a boy in Athens, this would be the time you'd be learning to read the great poets, to study rhetoric, to debate philosophy. But you are not in Athens. In Sparta, the curriculum is radically different. Your education is ruthlessly practical, designed to serve one purpose and one purpose only, to create an effective warrior and an obedient citizen. You do learn to read and write. This is a common misconception, that the Spartans were illiterate brutes. They were not. You are taught basic literacy, but only for functional purposes. You need to be able to read orders, to understand written laws, to send and receive dispatches on the battlefield. But that's where it stops. There is no deep dive into the epics of Homer, no study of lyric poetry, no philosophical inquiry. Such pursuits are considered frivolous, dangerous luxuries. They encourage individualism, critical thinking, and questioning authority, all things that are antithetical to the Spartan way of life. Why would you want a soldier in a phalanx to be questioning the meaning of justice when he should be focused on holding the line? Your intellectual training is focused on two areas: music and laconic speech. This might sound strange, but both have a direct military application. The music you learn is not for entertainment. You learn to play the flute and to sing oral songs, but these are war hymns and marching chants. The music is used to control the movement of the phalanx in battle. The steady rhythm of the flutes keeps the thousands of men in step as they advance, turning a mass of individuals into a single, terrifying, inexorable wall of bronze and iron. Your singing is done in a group, reinforcing your bond with your herd and instilling the core values of courage and sacrifice. The songs are about honor, about Sparta, about the glory of a beautiful death. Then there is the famous Spartan way of speaking, from which we get the word laconic. You are taught to be brief, pithy, and to the point. Eloquence and flowery language are seen as signs of Athenian weakness and deceit. A true Spartan says what he means in as few words as possible. Your instructors drill you on this relentlessly. They will ask you complex questions and expect a short, sharp, witty answer. Failure to do so results in punishment, sometimes even a bite on the thumb from the Iran. This verbal discipline is a form of mental training. It forces you to think clearly and efficiently, to strip away all unnecessary information and get to the core of an issue. It's the verbal equivalent of their physical austerity. Just as you have no extra fat on your body, you should have no extra words in your sentences. The famous anecdotes of Spartan would all revolve around this principle. When Philip of Macedon sent a threatening message to Sparta saying, "If I enter Laconia, I will raise Sparta to the ground," the Spartan Epihor sent back a reply with a single word. If the message was clear, you are welcome to try. One of the more peculiar and less known aspects of your academic life is the institutionalized pederastic relationships between the older Irenes and the younger boys. This is a difficult topic, and historians debate its nature endlessly. In Sparta, it was a formal, mentored relationship. An older, admired warrior would take a young boy as his beloved, his aites. The older man, the aristos, was expected to be a role model, to guide the boy's education and to instill in him the virtues of a warrior. The relationship was supposed to be about love, honor, and education, not just physical intimacy. It was seen as a crucial part of a boy's training, a way to pass down the Spartan ethos in a very personal way. The historical controversy here is immense. Was this system a noble form of mentorship, as writers like Xenophon portrayed it, or was it a system of institutionalized abuse? Was the physical aspect central, or was it supposed to be a chaste, platonic love? The Spartans themselves left no records of their views on the matter, so we are left to interpret the practice through the eyes of outsiders, who often had their own biases. The reality was likely complex and varied, with some relationships being genuinely educational and others being purely exploitative. For you, as a boy in the Agoge, it is simply another part of the system, another layer of complex power dynamics you must navigate. Your chosen mentor's reputation reflects on you, and your behavior reflects on him. It is another bond, another chain of loyalty, that ties you ever tighter to the warrior society. Your mind is not being expanded. It is being focused. It is being sharpened like the point of a spear. You are not being taught to think outside the box. You are being taught that the box, the phalanx, the state, the Spartan way of life, is the only thing that matters. Anything outside of it is irrelevant and dangerous. Your life in the Agoge is a constant struggle, a relentless series of tests, but the source of your daily misery is rarely the distant, high-ranking officials. It's the face you see every day, the voice that wakes you in the morning, the hand that wields the whip. It is your Iren, the 20-year-old youth put in command of your herd. He is not just an instructor, he is your master, your mentor, and your tormentor, all rolled into one. And his authority over you is nearly absolute. The Irenes are the recent graduates of the system. They have survived everything you are currently enduring, and they have been deemed worthy enough to be put in a position of leadership. They are at the peak of their physical fitness, filled with the arrogance and zeal of youth, and utterly committed to the system that forged them. Their primary job is to replicate that process with you. They are the chief enforcers of the Agoge's brutal curriculum. The Iren leads your herd in all its activities. He drills you in gymnastics, running, and wrestling. He presides over your meager meals, watching for any sign of greed or dissatisfaction. He is the one who quizzes you, testing your knowledge of war chants and your ability to give a sharp, laconic reply. He organizes and referees the ritualized fights between you and the other boys, encouraging aggression and punishing hesitation. He is a constant, scrutinizing presence. His most important tool is the whip. Flogging is not a rare or extreme punishment in the Agoge. It is a routine educational tool. It is applied frequently and for a wide range of infractions. Being slow to answer a question, showing clumsiness in a drill, failing in a theft, or displaying any hint of insubordination. The Iren wields the whip himself, and he is expected to be unsparing. This is a public act, often performed in front of the rest of the herd. The goal is not just to punish the individual, but to make an example of him. You are taught to take the flogging in silence, to cry out, to beg for mercy, or even to flinch excessively is a greater shame than the offense that earned you the beating in the first place. You must stand and endure it, a testament to your hardness. This culture of endurance is central to your identity. It's the quality the Spartans prized above almost all others. But the relationship with the Iren is more complex than just one of fear and punishment. He is also your primary role model. You are expected to obey him, but also to admire him, to want to be like him. He is the living embodiment of the man you are supposed to become. The system is designed to create a powerful bond of loyalty between the young boy and his Iren. This often took the form of the pederastic relationships we touched upon, where the Iren was the heiress' lover and the boy was the Aite's beloved. A small, and often misinterpreted, detail is the public nature of this bond. The Iren was held responsible for the development of the boys under his charge. If one of his boys excelled, the Iren was praised. If one of his boys misbehaved or showed cowardice, the Iren himself could be punished by his superiors. This created a powerful incentive for him to be ineffective. If brutal, teacher, his own honor was on the line. He was just bullying you for sport. He was staking his reputation on his ability to turn you into a proper Spartan. The academic debate here is subtle but important. Was the Iran system a brilliant form of peer-to-peer education that built cohesion and leadership? Or was it a recipe for institutionalized bullying and abuse, where power was given to young men with no oversight? The Greek writer Xenophon, a clear admirer of the system, saw it as the former. He believed it taught boys how to both rule and be ruled, a crucial skill for a citizen soldier. By giving the Iron-esque command, it prepared them for leadership in war. By forcing the younger boys to obey, it trained them for the discipline of the phalanx. However, it's easy to see how such a system could go wrong. A cruel or sadistic Iran could make a boy's life a living hell with impunity. The power imbalance was enormous. For you, as a boy of 8, 9, or 10, this 20-year-old is a giant, a figure of immense power. His favor can make your life slightly more bearable. His displeasure can bring a world of pain. You learn to read his moods, to anticipate his commands, to do whatever it takes to either earn his approval or at least avoid his wrath. You are learning the politics of survival, how to navigate a rigid and unforgiving hierarchy. Your Iran is the anvil upon which your obedience and resilience are hammered into shape. He is the first commander you will ever have, and your relationship with him will set the pattern for your entire life of service to the state. In this world of harsh discipline and constant struggle, there is one thing you will never be granted: privacy. From the moment you enter the Agoge, you cease to be an individual with a private life. You are now part of a collective, and your every action, from the most public to the most personal, is performed under the watchful eyes of others. This is life in a glass house, and the surveillance is total. You sleep in a large, open barracks with the rest of your herd. Your reed beds are lined up side by side. There are no partitions, no private corners to retreat to. Even in sleep, you are a public entity. Your sleeping habits, whether you toss and turn or talk in your sleep, are observable facts, potential data points about your character. Waking up is a synchronized, communal event dictated by the shout of the Iran. You eat together in the mess hall, another public space. Your table manners, the speed at which you eat, your reaction to the unpalatable food. It's all part of a performance. The older men and instructors are watching, judging. Do you take more than your fair share? Do you try to hide a piece of bread for later? Such actions would be instantly noticed and punished. Your training takes place on open grounds, where not only your instructors, but any passing citizen can observe your performance, your successes, and, more importantly, your failures are public knowledge. If you are outrun in a race, if you are thrown in a wrestling match, if you fumble a drill, there is no hiding it. The shame of failure is magnified by the number of people who witness it. This is a deliberate psychological tool. Public shame is a far more powerful motivator than private disappointment. It forces you to push yourself harder, to avoid the humiliation of being seen as weak or incompetent in the eyes of the community. Even your moments of supposed leisure are structured and supervised. There are no idle hours to be spent alone with your thoughts. Free time is channeled into group activities, singing the war hymns, practicing the war dances, or engaging in team games that are, in reality, just another form of training. The system is designed to eliminate solitude. A boy left alone might develop independent thoughts, might begin to question the system, might cultivate an inner life that is separate from the state. This is a risk the Spartan authorities are unwilling to take. Your mind, like your body, must be kept occupied with the business of becoming a Spartan. A small and telling detail about this lack of privacy extends to your own body. You exercise and often go about your daily business in the nude. This was common in Greek culture, but in Sparta, it had an added layer of meaning. It removed any mark of status that clothing might provide. Everyone was the same. More importantly, it meant your physical development was always on display. You could not hide a body that was becoming soft or out of shape. Your physical condition was a matter of public record, open to critique from your peers and superiors. It was another way the group enforced its standards on the individual. The historical debate here is about the ultimate psychological effect of this total lack of privacy. Did it create a healthy, cohesive, team-oriented mindset? the perfect foundation for a failing soldier? Or did it create a paranoid, repressed individual, constantly performing for an audience and terrified of showing any authentic, unapproved emotion? The Greek historian Thucydides, a keen observer of human nature, noted that the Spartans were always suspicious of outsiders and secretive in their own affairs. This has led some modern historians to argue that the constant surveillance of the Agoge bred a deep-seated paranoia. When you are watched your entire life, you learn to be wary, to conceal your true thoughts, and to view everyone as a potential judge. For you, this means you are never truly at ease. You are always on. The mask of the stoic, tough Spartan boy can never be allowed to slip. You learn to police your own thoughts, to suppress any feeling or impulse that doesn't conform to the ideal. The eye of the Iren is a powerful deterrent, but the collective eye of your peers is even more so. You all watch each other, the network of tiny guards, ensuring that no one deviates from the path. There is a certain safety in this, the safety of belonging, of knowing the rules, but it's the safety of a prison yard. You are free from the burden of choice, but you are also free from the possibility of being yourself. In a system built on total surveillance and absolute obedience, there must be a mechanism for immediate correction. In the Agoge, that mechanism is pain. The whip is not just a tool for punishing theft. It is the primary instrument of pedagogy. It is the full stop at the end of every lesson. It is the exclamation point that emphasizes every rule. The sting of the lash is the alphabet of your education. Flogging is a daily reality. It is not reserved for serious crimes. It is the standard response to almost any failure, big or small. If you are too slow in your drills, you are whipped. If you speak out of turn, you are whipped. If you fail to answer a question with appropriate laconic wit, you are whipped. If you show a moment of hesitation in a fight, you are whipped. The pain is a constant, conditioning presence in your life, teaching you to associate any deviation from the Spartan ideal with immediate, negative physical consequences. The act of flogging is ritualized. It is not done in anger, at least not officially. It is administered with a cold, dispassionate efficiency by your Iren or another official. This is crucial. It's meant to feel impersonal, a necessary application of the law, not a personal attack. This psychological framing is important. You are not meant to resent the man who whips you. You are meant to resent your own failure that made the whipping necessary. You internalize the blame. The fault is yours, not the system's, and your response to the whip is the most important part of the lesson. You must learn to endure without complaint. This is the ultimate test of your character, your endurance and fortitude. You must stand still, grit your teeth, and accept the blows. To cry out, to weep, to beg, or to show any outward sign of pain is to fail the test spectacularly. The physical pain of the whip is temporary, but the shame of failing to endure it in proper Spartan fashion will follow you for a long time. It will mark you as weak in the eyes of your peers and superiors. This creates a perverse incentive. You might even find yourself in situations where you welcome the whip, or at least see it as an opportunity to prove your manhood. To take a severe flogging without flinching is a badge of honor. It elevates your status within the herd. The boys who can endure the most pain are the ones who are the most respected. One of the most extreme and bizarre examples of this culture of endurance is a small, debated detail about a particular type of punishment. Some sources suggest that for certain infractions, boys were not just whipped, but were ritualistically bitten, usually on the thumb, by their Iren. This act, so primal and strange to us, was a very personal and visceral form of correction. It's a stark reminder that this was not a modern, bureaucratic system. It was raw, archaic, and deeply personal. A bite is a message that cannot be ignored. The academic controversy surrounding the Spartan use of flogging is intense. Was it an effective way to build discipline and courage? Or was it simply a system of brutalization that created unthinking, aggressive men who were damaged by their upbringing? The Roman statesman and philosopher Cicero, for example, was horrified by some of the Spartan practices he heard about, seeing them as a violation of natural human dignity. He and many others, argued that true virtue cannot be beaten into a person. It must be cultivated through reason and moral understanding. The Spartans, of course, would have scoffed at this. For them, the proof was in the phalanx. Their system produced soldiers who did not break, who held the line against overwhelming odds. They would argue that the pain of the whip was a small price to pay for the security of the state. It purged the weakness and hesitation that could lead to a rout in battle. A boy who learns to master his reaction to pain is a boy who will not panic when a spear is coming at his face. So you learn to live with the constant threat of the lash. Your back is likely a crisscrossing map of old and new worlds. You learn to dissociate from the pain, to send your mind somewhere else while your body endures the blows. You are learning that your body is not a source of pleasure, but a tool, an instrument that must be disciplined and controlled. It can be hurt, but your spirit, your Spartan will, must remain unbroken. The silence you maintain while the whip falls is the loudest statement you can make. It says, "You can hurt my body, but you cannot touch my will." This is the core of the identity being beaten into you. All the lessons you have learned so far, endurance of pain, the art of theft, the importance of silence, converge in a single, terrifying annual ritual. It takes place at the sanctuary of Artemis, or Thea, a site just outside the main settlement of Sparta. Artemis or Thea was an ancient, primitive goddess, a local version of the Greek goddess of the hunt, and her worship was correspondingly archaic and brutal. This is where you will face the ultimate test of your Agoge training so far. The Diamastagoes is, or the trial of the whips. The setup is deceptively simple. Cheeses are placed upon the altar of the goddess. Your task, as a boy of the Agoge, is to run up and steal one. The catch is that the altar is surrounded by Irenes and other officials, and they are all armed with whips. As you make your dash for the cheese, they will flog you relentlessly. The goal is not just to whip you if you get caught, but to whip you continuously as you attempt the theft. It is a gauntlet of pure, unadulterated pain. This is not a game. It is a deadly serious religious ceremony and a public spectacle. The entire community might gather to watch. The priestess of Artemis or Thea stands by, holding a small, wooden statue of the goddess. According to a strange legend described by the Greek traveler Pausanias, the statue was light and easy to hold, but if the floggers whipped with insufficient vigor, the statue would mysteriously become heavy, weighing the priestess down. This was a divine sign that the goddess was displeased, that she demanded more blood. The floggers, fearing divine wrath, would then redouble their efforts, lashing the boys with even greater fury. So you stand there, in a line with the other boys, your heart pounding. Your turn comes. You take a deep breath and you run. The moment you break from the line, the whips begin to fall. They cut across your back, your legs, your arms. The pain is explosive, a starburst of agony with every lash. You must ignore it. Your focus is singular. The altar, the cheese. You push through the curtain of pain, your eyes locked on the prize. The point of the ritual is not really the cheese. The cheese is just the objective, the excuse for the ordeal. The true test is how you bear the flogging. Do you scream? Do you fall? Do you turn back? Or do you press on, your body screaming in protest? You will dragging it forward. Some boys succeed, snatching a cheese from the altar and stumbling back through the hail of blows. Their prize held high in a bloody hand. They are heroes. They have demonstrated the highest Spartan virtue, endurance. But many do not succeed, and some, according to the ancient sources, do not survive. Boys were known to die at the altar, whipped to death in the savage ritual, and this was not seen as a tragedy. It was seen as a glorious death, an ultimate sacrifice to the goddess and a testament to the boy's courage. He had died trying, and in the Spartan worldview, that was a form of victory. Historians have debated the meaning of this bizarre ritual for centuries. What was its purpose? One theory is that it was a rite of passage, a symbolic transition from boyhood to the verge of manhood. By shedding their blood on the altar of the goddess, the boys were initiated into the warrior class. Another theory connects it to the need for absolute obedience and the suppression of the individual. You are being taught to follow an order. Any order, no matter how irrational or painful. Go get the cheese. It doesn't matter that you're being whipped. The order is all that matters. A more obscure and fascinating interpretation links the ritual back to the Helots. This theory suggests that the ritual was a substitute for a much older, even more brutal practice of human sacrifice, where perhaps a Helot was killed to appease the goddess and ensure the fertility of the land. Over time, the ritual was civilized into this form, where the blood of Spartan boys, rather than the wife of a Helot, was offered to the goddess. It's a chilling thought that this ordeal was actually the less brutal version, whatever its origin. For you, it is the pinnacle of everything you have been trained for. The hunger that taught you to steal, the constant floggings that taught you to endure pain, the public scrutiny that taught you to perform your courage. It all comes together in this one frantic, bloody dash. If you survive it, you are changed. You have faced the absolute limit of pain and have not broken. You have proven your worthiness in the most visceral way possible. You carry the scars on your back as a permanent record of your achievement. They are your diploma from this particular school of pain. And as you limp back to the barracks, you know you are one step closer to becoming the man Sparta wants you to be. Your education in violence is not limited to enduring it. You must also learn to dispense it with grace and precision. But this is Sparta, so even your lessons in killing are disguised as art. You are taught to dance. This is not the celebratory, free-form dancing of a festival. This is the Pyrrhic dance, the Pyrrhic, a war dance that is one of the cornerstones of your physical education. Imagine a group of you, boys of the Agoge, moving in perfect unison on the training ground. You are naked, or perhaps armed with a light shield and a wooden spear. A flute plays a rhythmic, driving melody. Your movements are not random. They are a choreographed sequence of attacks, dodges, and defensive postures. You lunge forward as if thrusting a spear. You crouch down as if hiding behind a shield. You leap to the side as if evading a blow. It is a deadly ballet, a simulation of single combat set to music. The Pyrrhic dance is incredibly demanding. It requires immense athleticism, coordination, and stamina. It is a full-body workout that builds the exact muscles you will need in a real battle. It teaches you balance, agility, and spatial awareness. You learn how to move your body as a weapon, how to flow from an offensive move to a defensive one seamlessly. The dance is your textbook for the grammar of violence. Plato, who saw the dance performed, described it in detail. He was impressed by its military utility, seeing it as the perfect form of physical education. He noted how it imitated all the movements of a warrior. The striking of blows, the hurling of javelins, the dodging of missiles. For him, it was a way to train the body for war without the actual risk of combat. But the purpose of the dance goes beyond individual skill. You perform it as a group, in a chorus. This teaches you to move together, to time your actions with the boys next to you. It is a microcosm of the phalanx. Just as the flute's rhythm keeps the shield wall in step during a battle, it keeps your dance chorus in perfect synchronization. You are learning to subordinate your individual rhythm to the rhythm of the group, a crucial lesson for any soldier. The aesthetic beauty of the dance comes from this perfect, machine-like unity. A small, and rather interesting detail is that the Pyrrhic dance was not just for boys. Girls in Sparta also learned a version of it. This was part of their own physical education, designed to make them strong and fit mothers of future warriors. The sight of a chorus of Spartan girls performing this athletic, aggressive dance was something that shocked and fascinated other Greeks. It was a symbol of the unique and, to them, strange role of women in Spartan society. As you grow older, the dance becomes more complex and more weaponized. You perform it with real shields and spears. The movements become faster, more powerful. It is a constant reinforcement of the skills you will need to survive on the battlefield. It embeds the motions of combat deep into your muscle memory, so that in the chaos of a real fight, you will not have to think. You will simply react, your body following the patterns it has danced 1,000 times. The historical debate around the Pyrrhic dance often revolves around its origins. Was it truly a Spartan invention, or did they adopt it from Crete or other Dorian cultures? Its roots are likely ancient and tied to the warrior initiation rites of many early societies. The Spartans, in their typical fashion, simply perfected it, stripped it of any purely festive elements, and turned it into a ruthlessly efficient training tool. Some scholars also argue about its psychological impact. Did the dance help to channel the boy's aggression into a disciplined form, or did it further glorify violence, making it seem beautiful and heroic, and blurring the line between a dance and a deadly fight? For you, the dance is a rare opportunity for expression, albeit a highly controlled one, in a life of austerity and suppression. The powerful, rhythmic movements of the dance are a release. It is a way to feel strong, to feel part of a powerful whole, as you move in unison with your brothers. The music driving you on, you feel a surge of collective identity, of pride. You are not just a boy, you are a cog in the great Spartan war machine. And in the Pyrrhic dance, you can feel the terrible, beautiful power of that machine coming to life. It is the art of war, made literal. Your body has been hardened, your will has been tested, and your movements have been trained. Now, the final layer of your Spartan identity is applied, the shaping of your speech. You have been learning this since you were a child at your mother's knee, but in the later stages of the Agoge, it is formalized and perfected. You are taught to master the art of laconic speech, a style as austere and functional as your single tunic. The principle is simple. Use the fewest words necessary to convey the most meaning. This is not about being quiet or sullen. It is about intellectual discipline. It is the belief that verbosity is a sign of a cluttered, imprecise mind. An Athenian might use 100 words to debate a point, weaving in rhetoric and philosophy. A Spartan is taught to cut through the noise and deliver a knockout blow with a single, well-aimed phrase. Your words are weapons, and like any weapon, they should be sharp, polished, and free of unnecessary ornamentation. Your IRNS and instructors constantly drill you on this. They will pose questions at the common meals, and you are expected to respond with a witty, concise, and often cutting remark. These sessions are a form of mental sparring. A clever answer earns you respect. A rambling or foolish answer earns you ridicule. Then likely, a sharp punishment. For example, an instructor might ask, "What is the most virtuous quality?" An Athenian boy might give a long discourse on justice or piety. You are expected to say something like, "Victory." This training fosters a particular kind of intelligence. It's not the speculative, abstract intelligence of a philosopher. It's a pragmatic, grounded, and often cynical intelligence. You learn to see the world in stark, simple terms. The anecdotes that have come down to us about Spartan would all celebrate this quality. When a foreigner boasted about how many times he could shoot an arrow into the air without missing, the Spartan famously replied, "My bow shoots arrows that kill men." The implication is clear. Your fancy tricks are useless. My skills have a deadly purpose. A fascinating, little-known aspect of this is how it was used as a tool of social control within Sparta. The ability to deliver a sharp, witty insult was a way to maintain the social hierarchy and enforce norms. A Spartan who was getting too arrogant or stepping out of line would be brought back down to earth not with a long lecture, but with a single, devastatingly sharp, witted comment from an elder, often in a public setting. This public shaming was a powerful tool for maintaining conformity. Your tongue could be as effective as a whip in keeping people in line. The historical debate here centers on whether this intellectual style was a sign of profound wisdom or profound limitation. Was the Spartan aversion to long speeches a sign that they were masters of essential truths, as they themselves believed? Or was it a sign that they were incapable of complex thought, that their minds were as rigid and inflexible as their failings? Critics, like Aristotle, argued the latter. He criticized the Spartan constitution and way of life, suggesting that their single-minded focus on war had made them one-dimensional. incapable of understanding the arts of peace or the complexities of politics. He saw their laconic speech not as a strength, but as a symptom of an impoverished intellectual culture. For you, mastering this style is crucial for your advancement. As you approach the end of your Agoge training, your ability to speak like a true Spartan is as important as your ability to fight like one. It is a key marker of your identity. It signals that you have fully absorbed the values of the state, that you see the world through the correct Spartan lens. Your voice itself is trained. You are taught not to shout, but to speak with a calm, unwavering authority. Emotion is to be filtered out of your speech, just as it is filtered out of your public behavior. When you finally graduate from the Agoge and take your place in the mess hall with the adult men, you will not be expected to engage in long conversations. You will listen, and when you speak, your words will be few. They will be sharp, and they will be heavy with the unspoken weight of your entire brutal education. Your silence says as much as your words. It says that you are a man of action, not of talk, and that you have no time for the frivolous chatter that occupies the lesser men of other cities. You are now approaching the end of your time in the Agoge. You are no longer a boy, but a young man. Your body is a sculpture of lean muscle, scarred and hardened by years of abuse. Your mind is sharp, disciplined, and focused. You have survived the hunger, the cold, the floggings, and the constant psychological pressure. You are one of the elite, one of the survivors, and for a select few, the best of the best. There is one final, secret, and terrifying stage of education, the Krypteia. The word Krypteia comes from the Greek word kryptos, meaning hidden or secret. It was, in essence, the Spartan secret police, a death squad, and a finishing school for its most promising young killers. The selection process is shrouded in mystery. It's not something you apply for. You are chosen. The Ephors, the 5 elected magistrates who held immense power in Sparta, would identify the most resourceful, the most ruthless, and the most intelligent young men graduating from the Agoge. One day, you are simply pulled aside by an official and told that you have been selected for a special service to the state. This is presented as a great honor, a recognition of your superior skills, but it is also a curse. It is an invitation to descend into a world of darkness and terror from which you will never fully return. The purpose of the Krypteia was twofold. First, it was the ultimate test of a young man's self-reliance and survival skills. Second, and more importantly, it was the primary instrument for terrorizing and controlling the Helot population. The initiation is dark. You are sent out from the city with nothing. No food, no blanket, not even a proper weapon, just a dagger. You are instructed to hide during the day, to sleep in the wilderness, to avoid all human contact. Your existence becomes nocturnal. Under the cover of darkness, you are to move through the countryside, through the lands farmed by the Helots, and you are to live off what you can steal. This is the culmination of all those years of sneaking out of the barracks to find food. But now the stakes are infinitely higher. But your primary mission is not just survival. You are a hunter, and your prey is human. Your task is to spy on the Helots, to listen for any whispers of rebellion, to identify any who seem too strong, too proud, or too influential. And when you find such a target, you are to eliminate them. You are to sneak into their homes or ambush them on a lowly road and kill them, silently and without a trace. A small, chilling detail passed down by Plutarch describes the formal nature of this. Each year, the Ephors would ritually declare war on the Helots. This was a legal formality, but it had a terrifying consequence. It meant that any Spartan could kill a Helot without incurring blood guilt or facing any legal penalty. It was a state-sanctioned, open season on the enslaved population. The Krypteia was the sharp edge of this policy. You are, quite literally, a licensed killer. The historical debate surrounding the Krypteia is enormous. Was it a formal institution, a permanent secret police force, or was it a more informal, occasional practice, used only in times of crisis? Plato describes it as a part of the Agoge's endurance training. Focusing on the hardship aspect, Xenophon, the great admirer of Sparta, suspiciously never mentions it at all, perhaps because he found it too shameful to include in his otherwise laudatory account. Plutarch, writing centuries later, gives us the most lurid and terrifying details, painting it as a systematic campaign of terror. The truth is likely somewhere in the middle. It probably wasn't a large, standing organization, but rather a rite of passage for a select few, a tool the state could use to remind the helots of their place. For you, being a member of the Krypteia is the ultimate test of your Spartan conditioning. Can you survive alone in the wild? Can you kill a stranger in cold blood, not in the heat of battle, but in the quiet of the night? Can you become a ghost, an instrument of the state's will, completely detached from human empathy? It is the final, brutal act of stripping away your humanity and replacing it with something else. The cold, hard logic of state security. You are being turned into a living weapon, a tool for maintaining a system built on fear. The experience will change you forever. You will see the world differently, as a landscape of threats and targets. It is the dark heart of the Spartan system, the place where the legendary warrior is forged in the fires of terror and assassination. You are now a member of the Krypteia, a ghost in your own country. The rules of your existence have been turned upside down. In the Agoge, you were part of a pack, never alone. Now, solitude is your cloak. In the barracks, the day was for training, the night for secret theft. Now, the day is for hiding, for melting into the landscape. Then the night is your domain, the time for your real work. Your dagger is your only companion. You learn the land in a way you never have before. Not the training grounds of Sparta, but the real Laconian Messeniae, the ravines, the forests, the hills. You learn to read the stars for direction. You learn which plants are edible and which are poison. You learn how to find water. You learn how to move without leaving a trace, how to use the shadows and the terrain to your advantage. You are becoming a creature of the wild, your senses honed to a razor's edge. Your survival depends not on the orders of an Iran, but on your own winged resilience. But this is not a wilderness survival course. Your focus is always on the helots. You watch them from hidden perches in the hills, observing their routines. You see them working the fields that technically belong to your family or the families of your peers. You see them in their small villages, gathering at the end of the day. You are looking for anything that stands out. Is there a man who works his plot with too much pride? A man who carries himself with a straight back, who doesn't show the proper deference? Is there a helot who is unusually strong, a natural leader who others seem to look up to? These are the ones the state fears. They are the potential sparks that could ignite a rebellion. They are your targets. The hunt is a slow, patient process. You might watch a man for days, learning his habits. When does he leave for the fields? Which path does he take home? Does he sleep near a window? You are an intelligence gatherer, an assassin, and a predator, all in one. The act of killing, when it comes, is meant to be brutal, efficient, and anonymous. You slip into a hut at night and slit a throat. You ambush a man on a dark road and disappear back into the night. The psychological toll of this must be immense. In battle, you kill an armed opponent who is trying to kill you. It is a fight for survival, but this is different. This is assassination. You are killing men who are, for all intents and purposes, unarmed civilians. You are killing them in their homes, in their sleep. To do this, you must fully embrace the dehumanizing ideology you have been taught your entire life. You must believe, truly believe, that these helots are not people in the same way you are. They are a threat, a resource, a problem to be managed. Killing one is no different from culling a wolf that gets too close to the flock. A small, grim detail that some historians speculate about is the psychological purpose of this for the state. The Krypteia was not just about controlling the helots. It was also about controlling you, by forcing its best and brightest young men to commit these acts of terror. The state implicated them. It bound them to the system with chains of blood. A man who has served in the Krypteia can never truly leave the Spartan ideology behind. He has participated in its darkest secrets. He is a part of the machine forever. The historical debate here is fierce. Did the Krypteia really engage in random killings, as Plutarch suggests, or was it more targeted, focused only on eliminating genuine threats and potential rebel leaders? Some scholars argue that the random terror narrative might be an exaggeration, a piece of anti-Spartan propaganda. They suggest it was more like a targeted counter-insurgency operation. Others argue that random terror was precisely the point. By making any helot a potential target at any time, it created a pervasive atmosphere of fear that was far more effective at preventing rebellion than simply killing a few leaders. The uncertainty, the knowledge that any shadow could be a killer, was the real weapon as you live this life. For months or perhaps even a year or two, you become something other than a soldier. You are an agent of fear. The stories of your actions, or the actions of others like you, spread like poison through the helot communities. You become a bogeyman, the Krypteia, the hidden one, a story whispered by parents to frighten their children. You are no longer just a man. You are a true love, state policy, a walking, breathing embodiment of Spartan domination. The experience hollows you out, leaving behind a core of perfect, cold discipline. You have hunted the most dangerous game, and in doing so, you have hunted the last vestiges of your own boyhood out of existence. Your time in the Krypteia eventually comes to an end. You are recalled from the wilderness, a ghost returning to the world of the living. You are leaner, harder, and your eyes hold a new kind of coldness. You have done the state's most secret and brutal work. You have been granted the ultimate power, the legal right to take a human life for the good of the state, without the justification of open battle. This experience sets you apart, even from your peers who did not serve in the Krypteia. You carry a silence and a knowledge that they do not. This concept of legal killing is fundamental to understanding the Spartan mindset. In most societies, taking a human life is the ultimate taboo, governed by strict laws and rituals. In Sparta, the law was manipulated to serve the state's primary need, the subjugation of the helots. The annual declaration of war by the Horse was a piece of grim legal theater. It transformed what would otherwise be murder into an act of war, thereby cleansing the killer of religious pollution and legal responsibility. This is a powerful psychological tool. It allows you, and the entire Spartan state, to maintain a self-image of being lawful and orderly, even while committing acts of systematic terror. You were not a murderer. You were a soldier, carrying out your duty in a war that was perpetually, quietly, being fought within your own borders. This legal framework provides the justification, the mental armor that allows the system to function. As you reintegrate into the final stages of the Agoge, you are no longer just a trainee. You are a proven asset. You may be given more responsibilities, perhaps even serving as a junior instructor. Your experiences in the wild giving you a new authority. You have seen the reality of Spartan power in its rawest form. You understand, better than anyone, the fragile foundation upon which your entire society is built. Now, let's consider a small, fascinating detail that shows the depth of this us versus them legal thinking. A Spartan citizen who killed another Spartan citizen would face the full force of the law. It was a serious crime, but the life of a helot had no intrinsic value under the law. The only time killing a helot might be a problem was if you killed a helot belonging to another Spartan's estate without permission. In that case, the crime was not murder. It was property damage. You had deprived another citizen of his laborer, and you might have to pay a fine, much as you would if you had lamed his ox. This distinction is chilling. It legally codifies the idea that the helots are not human subjects, but objects, tools owned by the state and its citizens. The historical debate around this is profound. How did this legal and moral flexibility affect the Spartan character? Did it make them hypocrites, or did they genuinely believe in this distinction? The philosopher Aristotle, in his Politics, argued that the Spartan focus on war and domination corrupted their sense of justice. He believed that a state that practices such brutality at home will inevitably be brutal and untrustworthy in its dealings abroad. The very skills that made the Krypteia effective, deceit, stealth, assassination, were the opposite of the traditional hoplite virtues of standing and fighting honorably in the phalanx. This created a fundamental contradiction in the Spartan character. They were, at once, honorable soldiers and shadowy assassins. For you, having been an instrument of this policy, the world is now a simpler, more brutal place. You have learned the ultimate lesson of Spartan power. That law is not a fixed, universal principle of justice. It is a tool, a weapon that can be bent and shaped to serve the interests of the powerful. The state can declare war on an unarmed population to legalize their murder. The state can define one group as human and another as property. This knowledge prepares you for the final step into manhood. You are about to become a full citizen, a homoios or peer, one of the equals who rules Sparta. But you know the secret that underpins this equality, that the freedom and privilege you are about to enjoy are paid for by the terror you help to inflict. Your right to vote, to own land, to be a peer, is fertilized by the blunted fear of the helots you hunted in the dark. This is the price of admission into the Spartan elite. You have paid it with your innocence, and now you are ready to take your place among the masters. You are now around 20 years old. The long, brutal journey of the Agoge, including your secret service in the Krypteia, is behind you. You have been hammered and forged into the ideal Spartan man. But there is one final hurdle to clear before you can take your place as a full citizen. You must be accepted into Sparta, or common mess. This is not a formality. It is a crucial, final test of your social acceptability. And failure here, at the very last step, means a lifetime of disgrace. The Sparta is the core of Spartan civic and military life. It is a dining club of about 15 men, who eat every single evening meal together for the rest of their lives. This is not just about food. It is the primary social unit of the Spartan male. It is his band of brothers, his political caucus, and the men who will fight alongside him in battle. His loyalty to his messmates is second only to his loyalty to the state. The bonds forged here are absolute. To join, you must be unanimously elected by the existing members of a mess. You, along with other young graduates, will present yourself as a candidate. The process is a secret ballot, conducted in a wonderfully primitive and symbolic way. The members of the mess sit down for their meal. A steward comes around with a bowl. Each member takes a piece of bread and, without anyone seeing, either drops it into the bowl as it is or squeezes it into a flattened, hard pellet. A whole piece of bread is a yes vote. A squeezed piece of bread is a no vote. After everyone has voted, the steward empties the bowl onto a table. If all the pieces of bread are whole, you are in. You have been accepted. But if even one single piece of squeezed bread is found, you have been rejected. The veto of a single member is enough to blackball you. There is no appeal. You have been deemed unworthy of their company. The pressure is immense. Why might someone vote against you? Perhaps you showed a hint of cowardice during your training. Perhaps you have an unpleasant personality. Perhaps you are too boastful or too sullen. Perhaps you simply rubbed one member the wrong way. All those years of public scrutiny, of living in a glass house, now come to a head. Your entire reputation is on the line, to be judged by the men who know you best. A small, interesting detail is the contribution each member had to make. Once you joined a mess, you were required to contribute a set amount of food and wine from your own estate, your arrows, every month. This included barley, wine, cheese, and figs. This was the economic foundation of the Sparta. It also served as a barrier to entry. If you could not provide your share, you could not be a member. And if you couldn't be a member, you lost your rights as a citizen. This is how the Spartans maintained a strict link between land ownership and citizenship status. The historical debate around the Sparta is about its purpose. Was it primarily a military institution, designed to build unbreakable bonds between soldiers? Or was it a political tool? A way for the elite to control the state by keeping the citizen body small and exclusive? The answer is likely both. It fostered incredible cohesion in the army. A Spartan phalanx was not just a collection of soldiers. It was a collection of dining clubs, each man fighting to protect his friends. But the system was also ruthlessly exclusive. A man who lost his land, or who was blackballed from a mess, was cast into a class of inferiors, known as hypomewans. They were Spartans by birth, but had lost their honor and their political rights. This kept the ruling class of peers small, pure, and unified. Let's assume you pass. The bread is all whole. A wave of relief washes over you. You have made it. You are now a full citizen of Sparta, a homo hyois, an equal or a peer. You take your seat at the table with the older men who are veterans of famous battles, men who hold positions of power. You are now one of them. The conversation is laconic. The food is simple, but the sense of belonging is absolute. You have passed through the fire, and you have been accepted into the inner sanctum. This is the moment your entire life has been building towards, from the inspection at birth, through the barefoot training, the hunger, the whippings, the cheese stealing, the secret killings of the Krypteia. It has all led to this. A seat at this table. You are no longer a boy to be ordered around. You are a man, a peer, a protector of the state. Your childhood, if it can be called that, is officially over. Your life of service as a Spartan warrior has just begun. You are now a full citizen, a peer, a member of the ruling elite. You have a seat at the men's table and a voice, however small, in the assembly. You have achieved the goal that was set for you at birth. But there is one more duty you must perform to be a complete Spartan man. You must marry and produce the next generation of soldiers. And like everything else in Sparta, marriage is a strange, unsentimental, and highly ritualized affair. You do not choose your wife based on love or romantic attraction. That is an alien concept. Marriages are likely arranged, or at least heavily guided, by your families and the state. The primary concern is eugenics. A strong, healthy warrior must be paired with a strong, healthy woman to produce the best possible offspring. Your future wife will have been through her own version of the Agoge, a state-run education system for girls that involved rigorous physical training, athletics, and music. She is not a delicate, sheltered Athenian girl. She is a Spartan woman, famed for her confidence, her physical prowess, and her sharp tongue. The wedding ceremony itself is not a public celebration. It is a bizarre ritual that can only be described as a mock abduction. On the appointed night, you abduct your bride. You sneak to her family's home and carry her off to a designated location. This is not a violent act, but a symbolic one, harkening back to a more primitive time. Once you have your bride, she is prepared by a bridesmaid. Her head is shaved completely. She is then dressed in a man's cloak and sandals and left alone in a dark room, lying on a pallet on the floor. This is the scene you enter into. It is a strange and disorienting ritual. The shaving of the head, the male clothing. Historians have debated the meaning for centuries. Is it to make the transition from the world of women to the world of men less jarring for you? A man who has lived exclusively with other men for years. Is it a rite of passage for her, symbolically shedding her girlhood? The reasoning is lost to time, but the imagery is stark and powerful. You spend a short time with your new wife in the darkness, and then you leave. You must sneak back to your barracks to sleep with the other young men. This is the most crucial part of the early years of your marriage. You are a married man, but you do not live with your wife. You continue to live in the barracks, eating all your meals in the SYS city until you are 30 years old. Your primary life is still with your military comrades. Seeing your wife requires stealth and cunning. You must sneak out of the barracks at night, visit her in secret at her family's home, and then sneak back before dawn, hoping not to be caught. This is, in essence, a continuation of the thieving skills you perfected in the Agoge. Getting caught would bring shame and ridicule. The purpose of this, according to ancient writers like Plutarch, was to ensure that your passions remained high and that you did not become overly familiar or complacent with each other. It was also a way to ensure that your primary loyalty remained with your messmates, not with your new family. A small, strange detail is that it was not uncommon for a Spartan man to have fathered several children before he had ever seen his wife's face in the daylight. Their entire relationship was nocturnal and secret. The state was a constant, looming presence in the most intimate aspects of your life. Your marriage was not for your personal happiness. It was for the production of children. Your relationship was a duty. Your secret visits a part of your service to the state. The historical debate here is about the emotional reality of Spartan marriage. Was it truly as cold and transactional as it seems? Or did genuine affection and partnership develop within these strange constraints? The strong, educated, and outspoken nature of Spartan women suggests that they were not passive participants in this system. They were partners in the great project of creating a strong Sparta. The famous stories of Spartan mothers show a deep, if unsentimental, investment in their son's honor. It's likely that Spartan marriages were complex partnerships, built on shared values and mutual respect, even if they lacked the romantic love we prize today. For you, this new chapter is just another part of your disciplined life. You are a husband and a potential father, but first and foremost, you are a soldier. Your life is governed by the rhythms of the barracks and the mess hall. Your marriage is a secret, a stolen pleasure, a duty performed in the shadows. It is the final piece of your identity slotting into place, ensuring that the great, brutal machine of Spartan reproduction continues, ready to create the next generation who will be fed into the Agoge. Just as you were, you are a man now. In your 30s, you have finally been released from the barracks and are allowed to live at home with the wife you have only known in darkness and secrecy. You are a father, your own sons perhaps just beginning their journey into the Agoge, that you have only just left behind. You are a full Spartan peer, the Homo ios, a landowning citizen soldier with all the rights and responsibilities that entails. You have survived. Looking back, you can't trace the path of scars, both visible and invisible, that has led you to this moment. Your life was a war from the moment you drew your first breath. Your first battle was not against a foreign enemy, but against the cold judgment of the elders at the Lesche. You fought for your right to exist on the very day you were born. Your childhood was not a time of play and learning, but a relentless campaign of hardship. Your enemies were hunger, cold, and the ever-present threat of the whip. You learned that weakness was a fatal flaw and that pain was a teacher. You learned that survival depended on cunning, on the ability to steal a piece of bread without being caught, on the skill of moving like a shadow in the night. You were taught that the individual is nothing and that the state is everything. Your family was replaced by your herd, your personal identity submerged into the collective. You were systematically stripped of comfort, privacy, and personal choice. Your body was not your own. It was a tool to be hardened, disciplined, and made ready for the phalanx. Your mind was not your own. It was to be sharpened for the specific, narrow purpose of serving the state. Your words clipped and precise like the thrust of a spear. You endured rituals of breathtaking cruelty, presented as religious duty. You ran the gauntlet of whips at the altar of Artemis or Thea. Your blood offered as a sacrifice to a hungry goddess. You learned to dance the art of killing, your movements synchronized to the rhythm of a war flute. And if you were one of the chosen few, you were sent into the darkness of the Krypteia to become a hunter of men, to learn the state's darkest secret. That law is a weapon, and that terror is the foundation of order. Even your entry into manhood, your marriage, was not your own. It was a state-mandated duty, a strange pantomime of abduction and secret visits, all designed to ensure the production of more cogs for the machine. Every stage of your life has been a trial, a filter designed to weed out the imperfect, the hesitant, the weak. You are the final product, a Spartan warrior, the most feared fighting man in the ancient world. But what was the cost? This is the question that historians have wrestled with for centuries. Did this brutal system, create true courage, or did it merely create a profound and elaborate form of fear? Fear of dishonor, fear of punishment, fear of being seen as weak. Was the Spartan warrior a paragon of virtue, or a deeply damaged human being, incapable of gentleness, empathy, or joy? The Spartans themselves would have seen this as a foolish question. Joy, empathy, gentleness, these were luxuries. They did not keep the Helots in check. They did not hold the line against the Persians. For them, the proof of their system's worth was in its result, the survival and dominance of Sparta. As you sit in your simple home, the sounds of the city, the clang of the blacksmith, the marching chants of the boys in the Agoge are the soundtrack of your life. You look at your own hands, calloused from the spear and the reed beds. You touch the old scars on your back, a permanent map of your education. You have won the greatest Spartan battle. You survived your childhood. But, in the quiet moments, in the darkness before sleep, you might wonder what was lost along the way. You are a survivor, a victor, a peer of the realm. You are everything a Spartan man is supposed to be, and you are a stranger to the boy you once were.